Meet Jason, a stubborn man who almost never admitted when he was wrong. He argued with doctors, mechanics, and teachers, convinced he usually knew better. Ayan noticed this strange pattern, and one question kept bothering him afterward. Why can people with limited skill sometimes feel incredibly confident about themselves? The answer isn't simply arrogance. Something deeper can distort our self-perception. Psychologists call one version of this problem the Dunning-Kruger effect. Sometimes lacking knowledge also means lacking the knowledge needed to spot mistakes. In other words, you may not know enough to know what you're missing. Jason failed his driving test 4 times, blaming every examiner except himself. He still believed his driving ability was far better than his results suggested. Meanwhile, a skilled surgeon named Natalie constantly questioned her own medical decisions. Years of experience had taught her how complicated even familiar situations could become. Expertise hadn't erased uncertainty. It had revealed how much uncertainty actually existed. Here's your first reset. Confidence and competence are not the same measurement. In 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger published a landmark study. Participants completed tests involving humor, logical reasoning, and English grammar skills. Lower performers tended to substantially overestimate how well they had actually performed. Higher performers sometimes underestimated their relative standing compared with other participants. The researchers connected these errors partly to problems accurately evaluating one's abilities. Ayan displayed two simple bars: predicted performance beside actual test performance. The gap between those bars revealed something uncomfortable about human self-awareness. Sometimes the skills needed to perform well also help us recognize poor performance. Imagine entering a huge library after reading only 3 books in your life. With nothing to compare them against, those 3 books might feel almost complete. Read 1,000 more, and suddenly the shelves seem impossibly large around you. Knowledge doesn't merely provide answers, it reveals questions you never knew existed. Here's your second reset. Learning often makes your unknowns more visible. Think about someone learning chess for the first time, Ayan explained carefully. After memorizing a few openings, they might suddenly feel surprisingly capable. Then they face an experienced player who sees patterns they cannot recognize yet. Their confidence may fall not because learning failed, but because awareness increased. They finally understand that the game contains layers they couldn't previously see. This is an important distinction from a popular internet myth, Ayan continued. Dunning-Kruger isn't scientifically defined by one universal confidence mountain everyone climbs. Human confidence changes differently depending on the person, task, experience, and feedback. But learning can expose hidden complexity, forcing confidence to become more realistic. Jason rarely reached that point because criticism immediately felt like a personal attack. Being wrong didn't feel informative to him. It felt like losing status. So, instead of examining mistakes, he searched for reasons other people caused them. That protected his confidence while preventing his driving skill from improving much. Natalie faced a different problem. She sometimes demanded impossible certainty from herself. Her expertise made complexity visible, but uncertainty didn't mean she lacked competence. Neither blind confidence nor relentless self-doubt gives an accurate picture of ability. What matters most is calibration, matching confidence as closely as possible to evidence. And here's the uncomfortable part. Expertise in one area doesn't protect you everywhere. A brilliant engineer can still misunderstand nutrition, investing, relationships, or public policy. A talented doctor can become an ordinary beginner when discussing an unfamiliar subject. Intelligence doesn't automatically transfer expertise from one field into another unrelated field. Here's your third reset. Everyone has domains where they're still a beginner. Ayan then opened social media, where another version of the problem appeared. One creator spoke with absolute certainty about a complicated scientific question. Another carefully explained the evidence, limitations, uncertainty, and what remained unknown. Guess which person sounded more convincing during the first 5 seconds? Certainty can feel persuasive because audiences cannot always independently evaluate technical expertise. A confident delivery may therefore be mistaken for evidence of actual knowledge. That's one reason misinformation can be difficult to correct once people accept it. The lesson isn't to distrust confidence, it's to stop treating confidence as proof. Ask instead, what evidence supports this, and does this person know the field? Ayan eventually showed Jason his driving records beside his own self-ratings. For several seconds, Jason said nothing while staring at the enormous mismatch. Normally, he would have blamed the instructor, the weather, or the testing system. But this time, he noticed something he had spent years avoiding completely. Maybe the evidence wasn't attacking him. Maybe it was trying to teach him. That tiny pause became more important than winning another pointless argument. Real change often begins when curiosity appears before defensiveness has time to speak. Jason quietly enrolled in driving lessons again and started asking different questions. Instead of saying, "Why did you fail me?" he asked, "What am I missing?" That question transformed every mistake into useful information. Here's your fourth reset. Good feedback can reveal what confidence cannot. His instructor corrected his turns, following distance, observation, and braking habits. At first, Jason's confidence actually decreased as he noticed more of his mistakes. But unlike before, his driving ability was finally moving in the opposite direction. Weeks later, something unexpected happened. His confidence began returning more carefully. This time, it wasn't built on assumptions. It was supported by measurable improvement. Natalie learned a similar lesson from the opposite direction of self-evaluation. Instead of treating anxious feelings as evidence, she examined outcomes and professional feedback. Her uncertainty didn't disappear, but it stopped automatically overruling evidence of competence. Here's your fifth reset. Feelings about your ability are data, not final verdicts. Sometimes, growth requires temporarily feeling less capable than you believed you were. That's uncomfortable, but recognizing a weakness gives you something you can improve. Children understand this naturally when learning to walk, draw, read, or ride. They fail repeatedly because being bad at something is often part of learning. Adults sometimes become different because mistakes can threaten identity, pride, or reputation. Saying, "I don't know," can therefore require more confidence than pretending certainty. Ayan looked directly into the camera and turned the question toward everyone watching. You've probably experienced both sides of inaccurate self-assessment during your own life. You felt certain about something before discovering information that changed your mind. And you've probably doubted yourself despite having evidence that you were capable. Neither experience defines your intelligence. What matters is how you respond afterward. Can new evidence update your confidence, or must your old belief always survive? Here's your final reset. Humility isn't thinking less of your ability. It's leaving enough room for reality to correct your understanding when necessary. Real intelligence was never about having every answer confidently prepared beforehand. It's knowing when to answer, when to investigate, and when to say, "I don't know." The most trustworthy person in the room may not always sound the most certain. They may hesitate, check the evidence, ask questions, and acknowledge their limitations. So before speaking with absolute certainty, give yourself one small psychological test. Ask what evidence could prove you wrong and whether you genuinely accept it. That small pause can separate genuine understanding from confidence built on blind spots. So ask yourself tonight, am I certain because I understand or because I haven't looked far enough?